Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Who Gives a Dram. I'm happy you're here. I'm happy that I'm here. Now let's talk some whiskey. There's a lot of things that we need to catch up on this week. A lot of important things have happened since the last time I recorded, but there's one thing that's happened that's more important than the rest, and that is the unfortunate circumstances that we all found out on Saturday of last weekend at the time of this recording. Unfortunate news that shook me to my core. News that I was not expecting yet understand completely. News that still affects me today and will affect me most likely for the rest of my life. And that is the discontinuation of the Outdoor Boys YouTube channel. A staple in YouTube, food. I don't know how to even say this, but there's some types of people that can't eat a meal without watching YouTube videos or a snack, and I'm one of those people. So if I'm eating dinner by myself, if I'm making it here at home, I'm usually watching YouTube on my iPad while I'm eating, and 10 times out of 10, it was the Outdoor Boys YouTube channel. Late nights in bed, Outdoor Boys YouTube channel. How to survive in the Alaska wilderness for 2 months with nothing but a toothpick and some moose jerky. There's only one guy that can do that, and that's Luke Nichols of the Outdoor Boys YouTube channel. And he announced that he basically got too famous too quickly, and it's affecting his kids and his wife and his personal life, and he needs to step back because he's too famous. What a baller. What an absolute just the best. The absolute best. And although the Outdoor Boys YouTube channel is not going to exist anymore, there's like 1,100 videos and just like probably tens of thousands of hours of content. Maybe not that much, maybe thousands, but regardless, a legend in the YouTube space. I had discovered the Outdoor Boys YouTube channel about a year and a half ago, and I was going through some stuff that was not great for my mental health. And I found solace in watching those videos, like in bed at night, when I knew I just had to watch that video. I didn't have to do anything else. I just had to watch that video. I just had to focus on this guy, going out to Alaska or going out to Hawaii or going out to the swamps or going out somewhere else and cooking bread and honey butter. Just the best. Absolute best. So rest in peace for the time being to the Outdoor Boys YouTube channel. I needed to say that at the top of the show because it's been affecting me. And because of that, I found the inspiration to say, you know what? Luke Nichols of the Outdoor Boys YouTube channel said, go off and do your own thing. If you watch this and I've helped you, go help other people. So I read that as, I'm going to go start vlogging myself, because why not? Which led to the creation of a new series that I just posted on Sunday on my YouTube channel here, Making McTavish. A series of whiskey vlogs that I'm going to record that shows you the behind the scenes of running a whiskey brand. In my case, McTavish Spirits, since I own it. And the first content day was beach content day, or the first episode was beach content day. And it ended up being perfect because it was just a really quick, probably hours worth of content that we will get content from that hour for months. We'll have half of our summer content from that hour, just from being creative and having Caleb, thankfully, and having Gracie, thankfully, there to create different shots and different environments, all within the same. It's watching people who are photographers and videographers work, and then seeing the end result is just insane. I included in this video, which you should check out. I'll link it below in the bio if you haven't seen it already. I put a video of Caleb behind the scenes. He's laying down in the sand, shooting pictures of Gracie, who is sitting on a beach log that we found on right on the shore. And I show like the behind the scenes, and then I edited in 3 snapshots of like that angle and those pictures, and just like the before and after is insane. And I had an idea of content that I wanted to do, that revolved around the beach and summer in McTavish and stuff that I still can't announce, but that's why we went there, and I decided to vlog it, and I had a great time, so I'm going to keep doing it and just figuring out ideas of things that I want to do to vlog. I have some trips coming up, which I will absolutely make massive vlogs for. I'm talking like, hopefully like hour-long vlog. That'd be sick. I got to get more space on my iPhone because I still record everything on my iPhone, including this podcast. But if you haven't already, go to my YouTube channel here. If you're watching this on YouTube, who gives a dram? There's a new playlist I created just called Making McTavish, where I'll be posting each edition of these vlogs. You can also go check out my prior podcasts as well, all the way back to October 2020. I had somebody recently tell me that they were watching old podcasts of mine from way back in the day when I was a young chap in the whiskey game. I still am. I still know like a fraction of the amount that a lot of other people do. And I sometimes I look back at those videos and I don't cringe because everybody starts somewhere, but I remember where what I was thinking during each episode, because I do these by myself. And it's insane. It's insane. So I got my iPad posted up here today to give me my show notes, things that I want to talk about. So that's going to help me. If you see me look over to the side here, as I'm looking at my iPad. And the first check mark was Outdoor Boys retiring, of course, the biggest news of the week. And there's some big whiskey news that we're going to talk about as well. So I think how I want to break down this episode is, there's one more story I want to talk about that will be for my spooky movie fans. And then there's a few... there's actually 2 in particular whiskey stories that I want to talk about because I have personal connections to both, and they both happened last week. And then we are going to review a wheated bourbon today, and I will bring it out at the end. Actually, no, we'll just bring it out right now. Why not? Penelope Wheated Bourbon. It's fairly new, widely distributed. I got it here in Rhode Island for $33. And I bought it a few weeks ago for my brother's birthday dinner where we cooked steaks, and I actually sent a picture of the bottle behind some beautiful steaks to Mike, who's the founder of Penelope. I texted it to him, and I had this whiskey for the first time at the Tampa Bay Whiskey Riot, and I knew this was going to be a staple of mine. This is, now that I'm in the business, especially as a non-distilling producer myself, I look at this bottle with so much more respect. So much more respect. And Penelope is one of, if not the best brands out right now. And this bottle is beautiful, and it's a wheated bourbon. And obviously, I've had some, and I've shared some with my brother and my sister's boyfriend, Aiden. And we're going to review this today later on. Penelope Wheated Bourbon. We'll talk about what a wheated bourbon is and kind of some examples. Or for those of you that don't know, we'll do a brief recap of what exactly that is, and then we'll go and we'll drink. So, but before we get into some of the whiskey specific talk, I do want to talk about this again for my spooky movie people. For my spooky movie people, I found this article. Actually, my sister told me about this the other day. Listen to this headline from KPEL 965. I don't know. It must be a New Orleans or a Louisiana news outlet. Here's the headline. Haunted happenings? Annabelle doll's visit to New Orleans coincides with string of strange events. And I will give you the spark notes of this article. And actually, it's more like the ChatGPT version of this article. Spark Notes, I don't even know if people use Spark Notes anymore. When I was a kid and we wanted to not read a book that was assigned to us, we used Spark Notes. We didn't use ChatGPT. That wasn't even invented. I had my Motorola Razr, and I used Spark Notes. That's what I did as a kid when I didn't want to read To Kill a Mockingbird. Or what's the other one? Isthmus, Oasis, something like that. Another book that we had to read. When I didn't want to read Huckleberry Finn, I whipped out my Motorola Razr, texted some people, and then used Spark Notes. That's what I did. I don't know if kids still do that anymore. Anyways, the legendary Annabelle, this is the article. The legendary Annabelle doll, yes, the same one made infamous by the Conjuring universe. The Conjuring 1 is my favorite spooky movie of all time, as well as the OG Salem's Lot. I want to get that out of the way. I love The Conjuring. Housed at Ed and Lorraine Warren's Oculate Museum, has reportedly made a stop in New Orleans as part of a paranormal exhibit tour. Since her arrival, a strange wave of unsettling events has people across South Louisiana asking, is it just coincidence or something more sinister? So basically, if you guys have been watching the news the past few days, maybe you've seen that there's been a prison break in New Orleans, or in Louisiana, I think in New Orleans. 10 inmates, and as of the time of this recording, 7 of them are still at large. Happens to occur right when the Annabelle doll gets to the state. I mean, come on. Shortly after Annabelle was displayed at a private paranormal event in New Orleans, French Quarter, a series of bizarre and serious incidents followed. A jailbreak in a nearby parish left authorities scrambling to recapture escaped inmates just days after the doll's arrival. The historic Nottoway Plantation, one of Louisiana's grandest antebellum estates, mysteriously caught fire, leaving heavy damage and unanswered questions. That might not be the worst thing in the world, but it is history. Locals have also reported electrical disturbances, pet behavior changes, and even unexplained noises in homes near the event location. I'm getting goosebumps just saying it. Some might dismiss it as all superstition. Others, especially those who attend the Annabelle exhibit, aren't so sure. I'm not saying Annabelle caused it, said one attendee, but all this happening at once, it's too much to ignore. I agree. I am a big believer in the paranormal spookiness. I'm a big believer in ghosts, I suppose. I am not an overly religious person, but I am a spiritual person. I believe in God. Once my Uncle Craig passed away, I did my dedication to him on this channel and everything. My belief in a God and my belief in something after life, I just amplified tenfold, and I do believe in that. But I also believe in the opposite. I believe in the paranormal and spookiness, and I love spooky season. If you are a fan of Who Gives the Dram, you know that I love spooky season. I might be the one that loves spooky season the most. I might be. Whiskey Morg might have me. I mean, his name is Whiskey Morg, which is spooky. But me and him, I mean, we're probably neck and neck. There might be other guys out there that I just don't know of, or people I'm not thinking of that also love spooky movies. But man, if you follow me on Instagram, Spooky Movie Sunday with Gracie, Whiskey Morg, one of my best buddies in the whiskey game. We talk spooky movies all the time. I mean, like, come on. Just watched a spooky movie the other day. Anyways, I wanted to touch on that because I'm the type of guy where I like the spring right now. Like, it's late, like mid to late May right now. And I love May. I love June. I think they're great months. I love being outside. And I love the 4th of July as a holiday. But after the 4th of July, I'm ready. I think, in my head, it's spooky season. I know we still have the rest of July and August, which is the worst month. I'm pretty sure we've done a tier list of months on this podcast. But anyways, I don't want to get too much into that. I want to talk whiskey, but I did want to hit on that really quick because, I mean, come on. Just an absolute banger of a story. That is just the coolest thing ever. So, anyways, let's get into the whiskey now. We're 15 minutes in. Let's get into the whiskey, and we'll pour some out of this Penelope. Actually, we'll pour some Penelope out right now. Then we'll hit on a few stories, and then we'll do a review. So, Penelope Wheated Bourbon. I will talk about it more here in a little bit. And I'll talk the specs on it. We'll pull up Penelope's website. We'll get it all right from there. We'll give a review on it. I already know I like it. And even if I didn't, the guys at Penelope are just phenomenal. One of the biggest most surprising whiskey headlines of this past week. Something that I certainly wasn't expecting, and I have a relationship with these guys, a closer relationship, I would say, than most. Middle West Spirits expands national footprint with acquisition of Old Elk. I mean, what a doozy, right? Old Elk, stationed in Colorado, I believe they were, and they still are a non-distilling producer, I believe, sourcing from MGP. And I know they had a tasting room in, I think, Fort Collins, Colorado, which I never visited, which is now shut down. Was acquired by Middle West Spirits based out of Columbus, Ohio. I know the guys at Middle West Spirits very well. I'm a big fan of Middle West, first and foremost. But I also I love the whiskey and I love the people. I've met Ryan, the CEO. I know Brian very well. I know a lot of the team very well over there, and they're tremendous people. I love their whiskey, and that's really all I can say right this second. Although I do want to say more, but I can't. But more or less, I've visited Columbus many times. I've been to both of their, I've been to their smaller distillery / tasting room restaurant. I've been to the new huge distillery footprint that they're building right now. That's operational, but they're expanding. I've seen it all. I've been to Columbus, I think 3 times or maybe 4 times in my travels, and I love it over there. So when I read this, I had an idea. And I heard through the grapevine that maybe Middle West was going to contract distill for Old Elk. Obviously, this is all just through nothing. I'm not saying anything was happening. I'm just, what I heard. But to acquire them, just encompass the entire brand is absolutely crazy to me. I mean, what a pickup! If you're talking like free agents. Middle West, great people, great facility. I think Middle West is going to be one of, if not the next biggest thing in contract distilling, right up there with MGP. I think Middle West is right up there. Like, I am a believer in Middle West. And to acquire Old Elk, one of the more popular non-distilling producers, I can relate to that with McTavish. We got Penelope here and NDP. I have love for those NDPs. I think they're great. So when I see someone like Old Elk, I highly respect them. Greg Metz, the master distiller there. I mean, lots of acclaim, lots of awards, good whiskey. I don't love all their stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm not in love with all of it, but it's all very good. Just some are better than others. It's all very good though. And using MGP. I'm sure they get some honey barrels. I'm sure they get, first pick along with the other big MGP and Luxco brands. I'm sure they're getting those good barrels. But nevertheless, what a pickup. I mean, come on. What a great pickup. I'm reading the press release off of one of my go-to bourbon sites, BreakingBourbon.com, which they did review the War Chief. So if you want to see their review of the War Chief, go to Breaking Bourbon. They did do one. And if you want to see my review, you can go to last week's podcast titled I Started a Whiskey Company. Columbus, Ohio. Middle West Spirits, one of North America's largest independently owned distilleries, today announced the acquisition of Old Elk Distillery and its related assets. Huge. Not sure how many barrels Old Elk owned, assuming a lot. Or at least that maybe we're under contract. Or actually, I wonder if the barrels go with... It must. The barrels must go with Old Elk. We'll see if it says it. Known for its award-winning whiskeys, deep customer loyalty, and distinctive slow-cut proofing process, Old Elk brings nationally recognized craftsmanship to Middle West's expanding branded portfolio. This is a meaningful moment for both our teams, said Ryan Lang, founding lead distiller and CEO of Middle West Spirits. Ryan's a good man. Smart dude as well. Old Elk has built a respected and beloved brand with staying power, blah, blah, blah. Goes on to say some nice things about Old Elk. By combining Old Elk's brand momentum with Middle West's robust infrastructure, this acquisition empowers both companies to reach more consumers, drive innovation, and raise the bar for craft spirits at scale, which is, I think, the most important part of this press release, because Middle West does have the capability to be the next MGP. I really do. I really do mean that. They have great whiskey. They have beautiful facilities. They have the experience. They have the technology. They have everything that is needed. They have the grains. I mean, it is a true grain to glass operation, and they have the personnel to go out and sell it and produce it and do it. I've met them. I've seen it. I've touched it all. Like it's there. I know it. Old Elk has that recognition though. They are a more popular brand. I'm pretty sure they're nationally distributed, more than Middle West at the very least, and probably have some international distribution as well. Maybe not. I don't know that for a fact, but I think combining the powerhouse of Middle West in terms of the horsepower, and then putting in that rocket fuel with Old Elk and that brand recognition and everything like that, combining the two, I think is a recipe for success. I think this is just a beautiful thing in whiskey. Since the day we launched over 8 years ago, we've been laser focused on one thing: truly listening to our team, customers, and partners. That focus has brought us to this incredible moment, said Luis Gonzalez, CEO of Old Elk. I didn't know that there was a CEO, so that's good. Our relationships have always been at the heart of what we do, blah, blah, blah. Good stuff. I'm extremely appreciative to Greg Metz for his mentorship, craftsmanship, and dedication to the team and his lasting impact and influence on the spirits industry. Thankful for the founders, Kurt and Nancy Richardson. It goes on to talk about the portfolio of Middle West. Another quote from Gonzalez about Middle West, about Old Elk. Founded in 2013. So they're going on 12 years before getting acquired. While the signature Old Elk slow cut proofing process takes significantly longer than most, taking the extra time makes all the difference. The proof is in the liquid. Today, the Old Elk portfolio is available in all 50 states, delivering award-winning products that span several whiskey categories. So I read this news, and I saw it from Ryan, that one dude Ryan, and I messaged him. I'm like, dude, because he posted something like, how is nobody talking about this? And I messaged him like, dude, where did you see this? Because I haven't seen it anywhere. And he said, Whiskey Advocate posted about it a few hours ago. And I was like, what? Went on to Whiskey Advocate, saw like, wow, this is, I think this acquisition is another, it's another proof of concept for us NDPs. You can go to these larger distilleries, show that you have the branding, you have the people, you have the blending capabilities, or you just have the palate, you have the fan base, you have the distribution channels, you have the relationships, whatever, to be acquired. And at the end of the day, as a non-distilling producer, there's two routes you can go. You can open up your own distillery, or High West was technically purchased by Constellation, I think. Well, you can either open a distillery, or you can be acquired by a larger, conglomerate of a spirits or alcohol company, and that's kind of when you get paid, and as if you have equity. And I look at the people at Old Elk, much deserved. I don't know anything about the pricing of all this, or what was paid and what wasn't, and what the long-term, short-term ROIs are, or what anything is. I just know what the public knows. And I just happen to know the guys at Middle West very well, and I'm just so happy for them. Old Elk is just a phenomenal brand with just national recognition, and Middle West really does have the capability to be the next big thing in the whiskey world. I think they really have the capability to be the next MGP. I really do. I wholeheartedly believe in Middle West. The fact that they have this rocket fuel behind them now with Old Elk, I hope that it's a symbiotic relationship for each, and I hope that they can use each other to grow both respective brands, and that helps. I'm a big believer in the whiskey industry. A rising tide raises all ships. I don't believe in competition for the most part. I believe in healthy competition, but I don't believe in competition where if someone succeeds, I feel jealous or bad, or I want to see other people succeed. I've always been like that. I like giving gifts more than receiving gifts. I love seeing people succeed because I know that if they're succeeding, there is space for everybody to succeed, especially in the booze business. There's so much space for everybody to have their cut of the pie. I would never wish ill will against any brand, whether it's an NDP, a celebrity brand, a legacy distillery. I want everybody to make $1 trillion. And who knows, maybe one day that'll be true. So just was so happy to see this. It elevates people like myself. It elevates McTavish Spirits. It elevates every single person it elevates every single person in the industry, and just a great story. Another great story that I saw in the spirits business. I also saw it on Instagram because I follow Dan. Lofted Spirits promotes Dan Callaway to Master Blender. I think this was kind of self-evident. I kind of assumed that he was already the master blender. I'm assuming that maybe they were just waiting for a time. Maybe they just needed the liquidity or something, or something like that to formally give Dan the promotion, I suppose. Maybe, I'm sure it comes with a pay raise and a lot of cool things. But if there's anyone deserving of being the master blender of two of the biggest brands in the world, of Bardstown and Green River, it's Dan. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Dan one time at a whiskey event that I hosted. And he's about 1.5 feet taller than me. And I watched him do his Pop Rocks segment of his whiskey tasting, and was just so impressed by the professionalism and the demeanor that he carried, and the ability for him to connect with a group of people that were both whiskey people and non-whiskey people. Walking through, people that have done tastings before and people that hadn't done tastings before. So the fact that Dan is now leading the charge in terms of the whiskey, and I'm sure he's working with the master distiller at Bardstown. I'm sure he's working. I'm not really sure who's the master distiller at Green River, if there is one. I used to be Jacob Call way back in the day. When I did my barrel pick at Bradshaw, it was Jacob Call. Formerly vice president of product development at Bardstown Bourbon Company, Callaway will now assume the role of master blender. One of the coolest titles. I've said this before on the podcast. Master distiller, master blender, master taster. Some of the coolest job titles in the history of job titles, like Master Jedi. Come on. Master blender? I could technically be the master blender of McTavish Spirits, I suppose, but everybody else we kind of blend all together. We're all the master blenders. A move that Lofted Spirits says is in recognition of his long-standing influence on the company's innovation-driven whiskey program. That is for sure. Dan approaches whiskey with a rare blend of creativity and precision. He's a true visionary. That was said by Mark Irwin, the CEO of Lofted Spirits, also the CEO of Bardstown. So I believe Lofted Spirits is the parent company, and within their umbrella is both Bardstown Bourbon and Green River, which makes sense. Because I had thought Bardstown had bought Green River, but apparently that wasn't the case. Callaway joined Bardstown Bourbon in April 2018, with the company quickly becoming one of the industry's preeminent contract distillers, which is true. In July 2022, Bardstown Bourbon acquired Green River Distilling, and in March this year, Lofted Spirits was established, placing both distilling operations under one single name. Okay, so Bardstown did acquire Green River. Gotcha. I was confused. In addition to blending for both product lines, Callaway will also oversee Lofted Custom Spirits, the company's that must have been contract distillation. Under Callaway stewardship, Bardstown collaborative finishes and experimental blends have received industry acclaim and garnered consumer attention, elevating Callaway to master blender as part of a broader strategic evolution for Lofted Spirits and its house of brands. And like I said, nobody more deserving of Mr. Dan Callaway. And I had the pleasure of meeting him one time, and maybe I've gone back and forth with him on Instagram once or twice. And a fantastic human being, a great guy, and someone that is just so well deserving to have that official recognition. Although he strikes me as the type of person that doesn't really care about titles, which are my type of people, because I hate titles. I wanted to put bar back on my business card. Like, I'm the bar back of McTavish Spirits. I don't know. I had my buddy Matt told me, Matt Frazier told me about that. Shout out to Matt. Black Market Rye Whiskey. Matt is a buddy of mine, and he used bar back on his business cards. I wanted to do the same thing, but I didn't. Shout out to Dan Callaway. Shout out to Bardstown. I mean, just come on. Just the premier destination, but that is, I mean, just one of the biggest operations in bourbon today. And their Origin Rye is one of my favorite ryes on the market. McTavish Rye, Bardstown Origin Rye, two of the best. So, but let's talk about wheated bourbon to end off this show. Let's drink a little whiskey. Let's drink a little bourbon. We're going to talk about wheated bourbon here for a second. And while I nose this, we're basically just going to talk what is wheated bourbon. And it's very simple. It's not too difficult to understand if someone is watching this that's new into whiskey. Bourbon, as is commonly accepted, is composed of a mash bill, which is more or less the ingredient list of what is the grains that are distilled, that are fermented and distilled into the bottle of whiskey. And it's typically corn, rye, and malted barley. And the malted barley is essentially there just to help with the germinating process and to extract the sugars out of those, out of the alcohol and help with that process. By law, bourbon has to be at least 51% corn. So if it's below 51%, it's not bourbon. It can be whiskey, it can be American whiskey, but it's not bourbon. Generally, the next dominant grain to kind of go along with the sweetness and I'd say mustiness of the corn is typically rye, and that balances out that sweetness by providing a more spicy, earthy punch to the mash bill, to the flavor profile. And then typically there's a small percentage of malted barley. Sometimes it's higher if you want more of a malted presence, but it's typically, I'd say, between, 4 to 8%, just throwing around numbers, 4 to 10% maybe. For example, the War Chief, the McTavish Spirits, gold medal award-winning bottle of the Bomb Bourbon whiskey, 75% corn, 21% rye, 4% malted barley, which is a very popular mash bill coming from MGP. By law, like I said, it has to be 51% corn, and typically, I believe if it's anything over 18% rye, it's considered a high rye bourbon. What a wheated bourbon does, it essentially just swaps the rye for wheat, and wheat doesn't germinate as easily. So it was never used as the dominant grain. Back in the early days, corn was plentiful, and it's easy to distill. It's easy to ferment and distill. So, and it's a sweeter grain. So people were using corn, and then again, the rye was also plentiful. Think of, George Washington had a massive rye whiskey production over there in Mount Vernon. And then the barley was used more or less for the distilling process only, and to kind of help bind everything together, more or less. That's not the most scientific way to put it, but more or less. Wheat in a wheated bourbon, that's swapped out. There's technically no legal requirement other than the second dominant. Trying to go to Penelope's website. The second most dominant grain is going to be wheat, and it can be replacing all the rye content or just part of the rye content as well. You can still have rye whiskey in a wheated bourbon. A lot of it just kind of goes into what we call fantastical labels, kind of like small batch. Doesn't really mean anything at all legally in the eyes of the TTB. Wheated bourbon, yes, wheat is the second one, but you could also put 4 grain. if you go corn, wheat, rye, malted barley, as long as wheat is the second most dominant grain, you could technically either call it 4-grain or wheated bourbon, to the best of my knowledge in the eyes of the TTB. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But I don't think I am. And wheat, really, what it does is it kind of counteracts the sharp, sweet notes of the corn, and it mutes it down a little bit. I get something that's a little bit softer, but I also get things that are typically not totally correlated with with a wheated bourbon. I do get a little bit more of like a cinnamon on a wheated bourbon. I get something that's punchy on a wheated bourbon, and I will go on the record as saying I love wheated bourbons and wheat whiskeys. They're not always my favorite, but some of them on the market are absolutely delicious. And we'll go through some of the brands here right now that are wheated brands. I think the most popular one, the most widely distributed one, is Maker's Mark, wheated bourbon. The most sought after one is by far the Pappy Van Winkle lineup, which maybe you didn't know this, wheated bourbon mash bill from Buffalo Trace. Weller, if you know whiskey, if you are into bourbon, you know Weller. Buffalo Trace, wheated bourbon. Larceny is a great entry bourbon. Also have the barrel proof releases, which are fantastic. I haven't had one in a while, but I have 4 or 5 bottles here at the collection here at home. Great bourbon. And then we have this, among others, Redemption, Old Fitz, stuff, things like that. We get into Penelope Wheated Bourbon, and that pulls me up to this website I've been trying to get up. There it is. Discover Penelope Wheated Bourbon, where the right flavor profile, proof, and price coverage converge to create a standout bourbon experience. And on the nose, it's just so inviting. I get corn and sweet, like buttery popcorn creaminess. A little hints of something that's a bit punchier. I think on this, it's a little bit of mint in a way. Just a hair. Again, I always get a little bit more punchiness on a wheated bourbon. Yeah, it's just very sweet, very creamy. A bit muted. This is, what are we looking at here? 95 proof, 47.5% ABV, and again 4-grain. So like I just said, it's the wheated bourbon, but it's also 4-grain. So I guess I was right. Let's look at the notes they say. Aroma: light oak, sweet corn. There you go. Apple and pear. A little bit of fruitiness. I do get that, but I get more of something that's a bit more pungent. I'm thinking mint. Maybe even a little bit of leather on there. Let's drink it. Cheers. I'm also thinking about doing a episode that's just how to drink whiskey, how I recommend to drink whiskey. And I'm not saying I do it the right way, but I always like to go through it whenever I'm doing a tasting with Graham. I like to go through and give my recommendations on how to properly drink whiskey. Vanilla, honey, caramel, apple, and a hint of orange zest. There's so much vanilla on here. So much. That is by far the dominant taste on the palate, the dominant note. And honey is another one. I think like Honey Nut Cheerios. Speaking of the outdoor boys, honey butter bread. It all circles back to our friend Luke Nichols of the Outdoor Boys YouTube channel. You see, I knew there was a reason I wanted to do Penelope Wheated Bourbon today. Honey is definitely there. Caramel, I don't get as much of the apple. I don't get as much of the fruit on the palate. Let's take another sip. Yeah, it's very honey, caramel, vanilla forward. Almost like There's that ice cream bar that has the honey clusters on it, kind of like there's a strawberry shortcake version and there's like the honey nut version, I guess. That's what this is, and it's delicious. And for $33, which is what I bought this for, man, is it good. Um, my sister had a cinnamon oat milk latte yesterday when we did our beach content day, and it kind of reminds me of that as well. There's a little bit of like a cinnamon, maybe like a almost like a brown sugar creaminess to it as well. Just so good. So good. Mike and Danny at Penelope are just two of the goats right now, man. I look up to them. They are inspirations of mine. I tell them that. Like, their brand, their ethos, the way they do it, their whiskey is just some of the best. And they are so deserving of getting acquired for a massive amount of money like they did a few years ago. And this is one of the reasons. A nationally distributed, highly available, highly tasty, beautiful bottle of wheated bourbon whiskey that showcases the greatest aspects of wheated bourbon or wheat whiskey in general. It doesn't have as much of the rye spice, of the earthiness of a rye forward bourbon. It just really plays into the subtle, sweeter notes, complementing the corn aspect. What is the mash bill? So the mash bill is 74% corn, 7% rye, 16% wheat, 3% malted barley, and I think that is very, very much appropriate. I mean, that you can taste it. You still get the musty sweetness of the corn forward, but then you get that little bit of that like creamy caramel, honey butter bread, sitting out by the fire, surviving Alaska wilderness with nothing but moose jerky and a toothpick. Rest in peace, Outdoor Boys. And I think that's where we got to end it. 45 minutes in. What I love about the Penelope website, and by the way, their branding is like top notch, is they have their one-pagers in each and every whiskey that they offer. Their website is beautiful. Cases available, 4,000. Like it really goes into some good detail. And a lot of my one-pagers that I created for McTavish are based on these, because just in the way they're done, but I can't make it look this good. I mean, I gotta have someone that's way smarter than me do that. 95 proof. It's a blend of 4 to 6 year bourbon. Yeah. What a great mash bill too, you know. So, do I recommend this wheated bourbon? Abso-freaking-lutely. If you're looking for something that's approachable, that's sweeter in nature, that's not low proof, but I think 95 is a perfect proof point for this, and something that plays well neat or on the rocks. I'm sure this is great in a cocktail, but neat or maybe with a little bit of water, I think is where this is going to be best at. I'm sure it's great on ice, getting it down to maybe 90, 88 proof. Might be a little bit too much, but neat. Or if you're outside, putting this on the rocks is going to be a game changer. This is what I would consider, in terms of just the branding, the color, everything, a summer whiskey. And that is always a good thing to have. I always recommend the War Chief. Don't get me wrong. I think it's perfect for every occasion. I'm biased, but I have to go ahead and say that. You can see the bottles behind me if you're watching on YouTube. But this is going to be a staple of mine in my collection. I don't go out and buy whiskey that much anymore. Let me tell you, I really don't go out and buy whiskey that much anymore. This is going to be one that I'm going to go and buy and have on my shelf, not only for the respect I have for Mike and Danny, for the brand itself, but just as a whiskey fan, this is perfect. So I'm going to end there. Thank you very much for joining this episode of Who Gives a Dram. We covered a lot of different subjects, and as I get more back into podcasting, I'm going to start experimenting with different things. Comment down below or reach out to me if there's specific things or topics you want me to talk about on Who Gives a Dram. I am happy to cover them. It can involve McTavish spirits, it can involve whiskey, it can involve whatever. I'm also, if you're listening to this point, I am also dabbling with the thought of starting a Patreon. And what that will do is help me upgrade some of my equipment with the funds. It'll help me. I would like to ship out samples. I'd like to ship out bottles. I'd like to do, some get-togethers with the little community that we have here of people. Let me know what you think about that. Maybe do some tastings together. Be a guest on the podcast, something like that. Let me know if you're a fan of Who Gives a Dram. Let me know if you'd be open to paying X amount of dollars per month to help this show grow. As I also, do McTavish Spirits as well. And we have a lot of exciting news coming up with McTavish Spirits very soon. Very soon. I'm very excited to announce them. Go check out the whiskey vlog I just posted yesterday here on the YouTube channel. I will link it down below. It'll probably show up at the end credits. Make sure you go check that out. Check out McTavish Spirits on Instagram at McTavish Spirits. Go visit our website, which I'll link down below, McTavishSpirits.com. Pick up the War Chief. We'll ship it right to you. Go to sealbox.com. Type in Legacy Series 1. There's a very limited amount of bottles left there. So if you want our very highly allocated Legacy Series 1, 6 and 7 year bourbon finished in peated Scotch cask, go over there. Check it out. And it'll ship right to your door through all the states that Sealbox distributes to. You can follow me on Instagram, Connor_whiskey, Twitter, TikTok, not Facebook, but Twitter and TikTok, Connor_whiskey is my handle. You can follow the podcast on Facebook, Who Gives a Dram. Recently remembered I still have a Facebook, so we'll see what happens there. But regardless, thanks for stopping by for another week. Be on the lookout for more content. Be on the lookout for more things that are happening in the realm of McTavish Spirits and Who Gives a Dram. And always remember, whiskey's the water of life, so let's start living.